You mentioned the positive economic data that we've seen since the September meeting, including the revisions to things like savings, higher GDP growth. We saw a stock market jump yesterday. That's renewed some of the questions about why do many cuts at all in this with this backdrop.
So you're right. As I mentioned, and as you mentioned, the latest economic data have been strong, and that's, of course, a great thing and highly welcome. But, of course, our mandate is maximum employment and price stability, and we think that even with today's cut, policy is still restrictive. We understand it's not possible to say precisely how restrictive, but we feel that it is still restrictive. And if you look at our goal variables, the labor market has cooled a great deal from its overheated state of 2 years ago and is now essentially in balance. It is continuing to cool, albeit at a modest rate, and we don't need further cooling, we don't think, to achieve our inflation mandate. So that's the labor market. Inflation has moved down a great deal from its highs of 2 years ago, and we judged, as I mentioned, that it's on a sustainable path back to 2%. So the job's not done on inflation. But if you look at those two things, we judged in September that it was appropriate to begin to recalibrate our policy stance to reflect this progress, and today's decision is really another step in that process. Overall, as I mentioned, we believe that with an appropriate recalibration of our policy stance, we can maintain strength in the labor market even as our policy stance enables further progress toward our inflation goal.
Great. And just to follow up, what might cause you to pause rate cuts in December? What kind of economic data would lead you to that path? Thank you.
So we haven't, made any decision like that at all. But we're in the process, as I mentioned, of moving policy down, our stance down over time to more neutral level. And as a general matter, as we move ahead, we are prepared to adjust our assessments of the appropriate pace and destination as the outlook evolves. So, for example, if we were to see the labor market deteriorating, we'd be prepared to move more quickly. Alternatively, as we approach levels that are plausibly neutral or close to neutral, it may turn out to be appropriate to slow the pace at which we're dialing back restriction. Again, haven't made any decisions about that, but that's certainly a possibility. If you can think of it as similar to what we do with asset with asset runoff, with QT. So we reach a point where we slow the pace, much like an airplane reaching the airport slows down. And so we're thinking about it that way, but it's something that we're just beginning to think about.